The shackled gift, the war was over. The humans had won. Captain Jalen stood still as the alien general bowed and said, "A reward for your bravery." At first, Jalen didn't speak. He had seen too much death already, too many lives lost. He didn't want medals or parties. He just wanted peace. But then they brought her forward. Two guards dragged a girl in chains, her ankles and wrists bruised, her head down. She was alien, yes, but not like any Jalen had seen before. Her skin was pale blue, glowing softly under the lights. Her long silver hair was tangled and dirty. She was barefoot. Her thin dress was torn. Jalen's jaw clenched. "What is this?" "Your reward," said the alien general. "She was a slave of the enemy, now she is yours." The girl flinched as the words were spoken. She didn't look up. Jalen's eyes darkened. "I didn't ask for this." The guards shoved her forward. She stumbled and fell hard at Jalen's feet. A soft cry left her lips like a wounded animal. Jalen knelt, his voice calm. "Hey, are you hurt?" She slowly looked up. Her eyes, golden, wide, terrified, met his. Jalen froze. Those eyes didn't show anger. They showed fear and pain, so much pain. "She has no voice." One of the guards laughed. Tried to speak once. Got beaten for it. Jalen stood slowly. His fists were tight. "Unlock her," he said coldly. "What?" The alien general blinked. "But she is a gift." "I don't take people as gifts," Jalen said. "Now, unlock her." The guards hesitated, then obeyed. One by one, the heavy chains fell from her arms and legs. She didn't move. She didn't even breathe loudly. She just stared at Jalen like he was something strange, something impossible. He reached out his hand. She flinched. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're free now." The girl didn't take his hand, but she didn't run either. She just followed as he gently walked away, her bare feet silent, on the metal floor. Back at his quarters, Jalen made her sit near a small heater. The room was quiet. He brought water, then food. She didn't touch it at first. "Eat," he said gently. "You need it." She looked at the food, then at him, unsure. Her fingers shook. Then, like she hadn't eaten in weeks, she began to devour the bread, biting fast as if afraid it would be taken away. Jalen looked away, giving her privacy. After some time, she stopped and looked up at him. Her lips trembled. He gave a soft smile. "Better?" No answer, but her eyes didn't look as afraid anymore. He stood. "I'll find you some clean clothes. You can rest here. No one will touch you again. I promise." She stared at him, confused. He was different, strange, kind. Why? Later that night, Jalen sat alone, staring out the small window at the stars. He couldn't sleep. He had seen so much cruelty in this war, so much hate. And now this girl, chained like an animal, handed over, like property. He closed his eyes, guilt rising in his chest. Why didn't he speak sooner? Why did he let them treat her like that, even for a moment? Behind him, the girl lay curled up on the floor, a blanket around her. She wasn't asleep. Her eyes were open, staring at the warm light of the heater. She didn't understand this man. He didn't touch her, didn't yell, didn't look at her the way the others did. She felt lost. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel afraid. A soft knock broke the silence the next morning. It was Commander Hayes. "What's this I hear about you rejecting a gift?" he asked, stepping into the room. Jalen stood firm. "It wasn't a gift. It was a prisoner. She's yours now. Take care of her. Or send her back." "I'm not sending her back." Hayes frowned. "Then keep her out of trouble. People are talking." Jalen shut the door as Hayes left. He turned and saw her standing now, barefoot, holding the blanket around herself. "You don't have to be scared," he told her. Still, she didn't speak. But slowly she walked to the table, and sat down. It was the first time she had chosen to move on her own. Outside, the soldiers laughed and drank. They celebrated victory. But inside one quiet room, something else began. A connection neither of them fully understood yet. She was once a gift in chains. Now she had a name to discover. And maybe a home. The girl who wouldn't speak, she sat. In the corner like a shadow. Wrapped in a blanket, knees pulled to her chest, the alien girl didn't blink much. She didn't speak. She didn't move unless she had to. Even her breath was quiet, as if she was scared of being heard. Captain Jalen watched her from the other side of the room. It had been 3 days since he freed her from those chains. 3 days of silence. She didn't scream, didn't cry, but she didn't smile either. She just existed. He brought her food every day. She waited until he left the room. Only then did she eat, fast, like a creature used to someone snatching it away. Jalen didn't push her. He didn't ask questions, but deep down, he was worried. That evening, he left a small bowl of soup beside her and went to the other room. He sat at his desk, rubbing his tired eyes. So many reports to write, so many calls to ignore, and one girl he couldn't stop thinking about. Her eyes haunted him, not because they were golden and glowing, but because of the pain in them. Suddenly, he heard a soft sound clink. He turned slightly. She had picked up the spoon and was using it. That was new. She wasn't eating with her hands anymore. She was learning. It made him smile, just a little. Later that night, while Jalen was asleep on the couch, he heard soft footsteps. Bare feet. He opened his eyes. She was standing, there just a few steps away, holding her blanket tightly. He didn't move. He didn't want to scare her. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She didn't answer. But she stared at him. Her lips moved, just slightly. She seemed like she wanted to speak, but couldn't. Then after a moment, she did something unexpected. She pointed at him, then touched her own chest, then pointed again at him. Jalen sat up slowly. "Me? You? What? Do you want to know?" She lowered her hand, looking sad. Then she turned and went back to her corner. But Jalen understood one thing. She wanted to communicate. The next morning, he brought something new, a touchscreen tablet. He placed it on the floor in front of her and sat nearby. "Look," he said softly. He tapped it and showed a simple word. Water with a picture. Then he tapped another. Food. Her eyes widened. She reached out, hesitant. Tapped. Food. He smiled. Good. He brought her a piece of fruit. Her fingers were shaking when she took it. That was the first time she looked into his eyes for more than a second. Over the next few days, she began learning fast. She started tapping words on the screen. Sleep, cold, safe, name. But she still never used her voice. One night after she finished eating, she sat near him on the floor, not too close, just near. Jalen asked gently, "Do you have a name?" She looked at the screen. Her hand hovered over the letters. Then she stopped. She shook her head slowly. "No name?" he asked softly. She shook her head again. Jalen's heart tightened. "Then maybe we can find you one." Later, while she was sleeping, Jalen received a message from Command. They wanted an update on the gift. His blood ran cold. They still saw her as property, not a person. The next day, she surprised him. She walked to the table, without being asked, and sat in a chair. Jalen looked up from his datapad, shocked. "Morning." She nodded. Then she did something she hadn't done in days. She reached across the table and touched his hand. His heart stopped. She opened her mouth, her lips dry. Then, in a voice weak and unused, she whispered one word. "Why?" Jalen swallowed. "Why what?" She paused. Her hand trembled as she pointed to herself, then him. "Why? Me?" He leaned forward, voice firm, but kind. Because you matter. She stared at him, not blinking. Because you deserve kindness, he said. Because no one else saw you. But I do. Tears formed in her glowing eyes. For the first time, she let them fall. That night, she didn't sleep in the corner. She lay on the couch across from Jalen, still quiet, but no longer afraid. When she first looked him in the eyes, Captain, Jalen woke up to a strange feeling. He wasn't alone. His eyes blinked open and froze. She was standing right beside him, the alien girl. Her silver hair hung softly over her shoulders. The blanket she always carried was still wrapped around her like a second skin. But this time her face wasn't full of fear. She was looking straight at him, her golden eyes locked with his. No shaking, no flinching, only curiosity. Jalen didn't move. He didn't want to break the moment. "Hey," he whispered. She tilted her head slightly, as if studying him, like she was trying to understand something, not outside, but inside him. Jalen sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. "You okay?" She didn't reply. But then softly she raised one hand and touched the scar on his cheek. It was an old war scar. Most people avoided it. She didn't. She traced the mark with her finger, gently, then brought her hand back to her chest and placed it over her heart. Jalen's voice was low. "You remember pain too, don't you?" Her eyes lowered and she gave a small nod. After that day, something changed. She started sitting at the table without being asked. She waited. For him, when he came back from his duties, she began learning more words on the tablet. Safe, scared, want, learn. Jalen even taught her how to write a few letters on paper. She liked writing. Her hands moved slow, but careful. She seemed proud when she got a word right, but she still rarely spoke. Only once, when she had asked, "Why, me?" That night still echoed in Jalen's heart. One evening, a storm hit the base planet. Strong winds, loud thunder, flickering power. The lights in the room went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Then, crack. A loud noise shook the building. Jalen ran to the main panel to check the power. Damn it. Whole system's down. Turned around, she was gone. Panic hit him. "Hey, where are you?" He grabbed a flashlight and rushed through the rooms. "It's just a storm, you're safe." Then he found her. She was crouched in the corner of the kitchen, shaking. She had curled herself up, arms over her head, eyes wide with terror. She thought it was punishment. Jalen's heart broke. He knelt beside her and spoke softly. "No one's hurting you, not anymore, not..." She looked up at him, eyes wet. She reached out with both hands and clung to his arm. He didn't pull away. He wrapped her in his arms instead, and she cried silently. Later, when the lights returned, she was still holding on to him, wrapped in her blanket, her head resting on his shoulder. He didn't move. He just stayed there with her. The next morning, something unbelievable happened. She spoke, not with her mouth, but with a name. She walked up to the table and slowly pushed a small paper toward him. He picked it up. One word was written, shaky letters but clear. "Lara." Jalen looked at her. "Lara, is that your name?" She gave a small nod. Her voice came out low, almost broken. "It was before they took it." He smiled. "Then Lara it is. No one takes it again?" She looked away, as if hiding a small smile. That night, Jalen made 2 cups of warm tea. He placed one in front of her. "Thank you," he said. She blinked. "For what?" "For trusting me." Her voice was soft, unsure. "I don't know how." Jalen looked at her, serious but kind. "That's okay. We'll learn together." She looked at him again, this time longer, deeper, and for the first time, she truly saw him, not just a human, not a soldier, not her captor, but something else. Someone safe. The mark on her back. The day was quiet. Lara stood by the window, her golden eyes watching the sky. It had been a full week since she had told Jalen her name. Every day since then she had spoken more, a few words, a few smiles. Even a laugh once when Jalen dropped hot tea on his hand and started hopping around. But deep inside, something still held her back. Something she hadn't told him. Something she hadn't shown anyone. And it was carved into her body. That morning, Jalen brought her a long robe, soft fabric, deep green color. "I thought you might like something warm," he said. "No chains, no old slave dress." She touched the robe slowly, her fingers feeling the softness. Then she looked up and whispered, "Thank you." He smiled. "Do you want help putting it on?" She nodded. He turned around politely to give her space. She stepped into the clean robe, but when the old dress slipped from her shoulders, he saw them, the scars, deep, twisted, ugly, etched across her back like a cruel map, burned letters, numbers, and a circle symbol carved above her spine. She froze. She had forgotten he could see. She quickly covered herself again, but Jalen's breath caught. "Lara," she shook her head. "Don't ask." He lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "They marked me," she said quietly. "Long ago." Her voice shook. "It was to show I was owned, sold, used, returned. Sold again, I was a thing, just a thing." Jalen walked around and knelt in front of her. "You're not a thing, not to me." Lyra's eyes were full of shame. "You say that now, but if they find out who I was, what I was, they'll take me, and they'll kill you." Later that night, Jalen couldn't sleep. He sat at his old command terminal pulling up files, and he found it. A red classified tag, Unit Number 47A, Pleasure Slave, Serial B32R. No name, no identity. Just numbers. Just pain. He stared at the screen for a long time. Then, slowly, he deleted it. The next morning, Lara found him at the table, half asleep, a cup of cold coffee beside him. She sat quietly and whispered, "Did you look me up?" He nodded once. "And?" "I saw the code, and I erased it." She stared at him stunned. "You could be arrested." He looked at her. "So? I'd rather protect your future than honor their past." Lara's voice cracked. "They'll come for us." Jalen stood. "Then let them come, but not before I teach you how to fly a ship." She blinked. "Fly?" He grinned. "Yeah, you've been stuck on the ground too long. Let's change that." That day, he took her to a small training pod outside the base. She sat in the pilot's seat, hands shaking. He stood behind her, guiding. Her hands. Left lever controls lift. Right one turns. Pressure here for thrust. She listened closely, her movements careful. As the engine hummed to life, her fingers stopped shaking. "I've never touched anything like this," she whispered. "You've never had freedom before," he replied. She smiled. A real one. But they weren't alone. From the shadows, another officer watched them. He took a photo on his device, zooming in on her back where the robe slipped slightly, showing the edge of that branded mark. And then he sent the message. "Found the girl?" "Still with him. Report to command?" Reply came fast. "Bring them in. Alive if possible." That night, while Lara practiced letters on her data pad, Jalen packed emergency supplies quietly. She noticed. "You're planning something." He looked at her. "Yes, just in case. I don't trust the silence." She stood and walked closer. "You think they'll come?" "I know they will." Lara looked down. "You could still give me up. Tell them I escaped. They'd believe it." Jalen stepped forward, and for the first time he placed a hand gently on her cheek. "I won't lose you, Lara. Not now, not ever." Her voice was almost a whisper. "Then we run?" He nodded. Together. Outside, the sky was dark, But inside, hope was starting to glow. Escape from the base. The alarm hadn't sounded yet, but Jalen's heart was already racing. He moved quickly through the corridors, head down, one hand resting on the pack slung over his shoulder. Inside it, food, tools, and Lara's datapad. Everything they might need to survive off the grid. Behind him, Lara walked silently, wrapped in her green robe, her hood up to hide her glowing hair. Her golden eyes watched every shadow, every corner. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She knew they were being hunted. Hours earlier, a silent knock came to Jalen's door. A soldier, one he trusted. "They know," the man whispered. "They're sending a team to take her tonight. Pretend you don't know. Be gone before sunset." Then he vanished. Jalen didn't wait. He packed everything, told Lara only what she needed to know, and now they were on the move. The outer hangars were nearly empty. A few ships rested in the back, waiting for repairs or decommission. Jalen had one in mind. A small scout vessel, old, barely used, but fast, perfect for disappearing. But before they reached the gate, a voice stopped them. "Going somewhere, Captain?" Jalen froze. It was Commander Trask, stern face, armored vest, armed guards at his side. Lara stepped back. Trask's eyes narrowed. "You know she's property, right? Tagged, registered. Yours or not, you don't get to take her." Jalen stood tall. "She's not property, not anymore." Trask scoffed. "You've lost your mind, Jalen. What is she to you, a toy, a pet?" Jalen's voice was low but dangerous. "She's someone I chose to protect." "You're breaking military code." "Then arrest me," Jalen said. Trask raised a hand. But before he could signal his men, Lara stepped forward. Her voice shook, but it carried. "Please, let us go." The soldiers blinked, surprised she could speak. Jalen moved fast. He threw a flash device to the ground. Bang! Blinding light. Screams. Then he grabbed Lara's hand and they ran. The blast gave them only seconds. They reached the scout ship and jumped inside. "Buckle in," Jalen shouted as he slammed the hatch shut and powered the engines. Shots fired. Outside. Security teams yelled over radios. The ship roared and lifted. Lara held onto her seat as the vessel shot through the clouds. Jalen's hands danced over the controls. "They're launching interceptors," Lara warned, checking a screen. Then, "We disappear now." Jalen flipped a red switch. Stealth mode on. The ship faded off radar just as enemy ships closed in. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Out of their space," he said. "To the outer moons. We'll hide until I find somewhere safe." Lara stared at him. "You gave up everything. For me." He looked at her, eyes steady. "You gave me something too. A reason." Hours passed in silence. Stars floated outside the windows like distant candles. Lara sat beside Jalen in the cockpit. "You said you saw my records," she whispered. "I did. And you still chose me?" "I didn't choose what they did to you," he said. "I chose who you are now." She looked away. "I don't even know who I am." "Then we'll find out together." The ship landed on a small moon. Quiet. Cold. No signals. No patrols. Just a cave for shelter and stars for company. That night, by a tiny fire inside the cave, Lara looked at him and asked, "What happens now?" Jalen took a slow breath. "They'll keep looking, but we'll keep moving. Until they stop." She was quiet for a while, then softly she asked, "What if we never stop running?" Jalen smiled gently. "Then at least we'll run side by side." Her eyes softened. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and for the first time she said it aloud without fear. "Thank you, Jalen." In the quiet cave, with no guards, no chains, no orders, for the first time in her life, she felt free. The trial before the council. It was supposed to be a quiet morning, but the silence broke with the roar of engines. A dozen warships descended from the sky, surrounding the moon like metal birds of prey. Dust exploded around the cave. Searchlights cut through the shadows. Voices shouted commands in every direction. Jalen grabbed Lara's arm. "They found us." She didn't panic. Not this time. She just asked, "Do we run again?" But Jalen looked at her and shook his head. "No. This time, we face them." They didn't resist. They were outnumbered, outgunned, surrounded. Jalen stood tall as the soldiers aimed their weapons. Lara stood behind him, her face calm but pale. Her green robe fluttered in the cold wind. A high-ranking officer stepped forward. "Captain Jalen Pierce, you are under arrest for theft of military property, disobedience, and desertion." Jalen spoke without fear. "She's not property." The officer didn't reply. He only nodded once. "Take them." Chains were placed on Jalen's wrists. Not on Lara's. Not this time. They were taken to the core planet, the heart of the human union. Towering buildings, steel skies, eyes everywhere, and in the center of it all, the High Council chamber. Inside, the giant hall, the air was cold. Jalen stood in the center, his arms still shackled. Behind him, guards. Across from him, 5 council members in tall black robes. Lara sat in the far corner, quiet and still. Thousands watched the trial live, broadcast across systems. Some called him a traitor, others, a fool, but none could look away. Counselor Vareth, oldest of the 5, began the trial. "You were given a war reward, a slave. Instead, you freed her, hid her, fled with her. Do you deny this?" "I don't," Jalen said clearly. "And why? What made her worth risking your career, your life, your name?" Jalen looked at Lara, then back at the council. She was never mine to own. She's not a weapon, not a reward. She's a person, and He paused, heart thumping. "I love her." The chamber gasped. The counselors leaned in. One whispered, "This is madness." Vareth raised a brow. "Love? With a former pleasure class alien?" Jalen's voice remained firm. "You taught us to value justice, freedom, but you gave me someone in chains, and expected silence." The hall fell quiet. Vareth leaned back. "You are bold, Captain, but foolish. You know what the law says." Jalen nodded. "Then change the law." They brought Lara forward. No chains, but eyes followed her like a shadow. "Speak," Counselor Vareth said. "Do you agree with this human's claims?" She stepped forward. Her voice was soft but clear. "I was sold, marked, used, forgotten." A pause. "But he saw me, and called me by name." The council chamber held its breath. She raised her hand and placed it gently on Jalen's arm. "I was not born to be owned. I was born to feel the sun, to laugh, to be more." Tears filled some eyes in the crowd, not all, but some. After hours of arguments, whispers, and debates, the verdict came. Counselor Vareth stood. "Captain Jalen, you broke military law. You disobeyed orders. You betrayed the chain of command." A long pause. "But you also reminded us of something we forgot. Humanity." Gasps echoed through the chamber. "Your punishment is exile. You will leave all systems under our control. You will not return." Jalen closed his eyes, then nodded once. "Understood." Vareth turned to Lara. "You are free, but your presence will not be welcome in Union space." She met his gaze. "We don't want to stay." Later, as they stepped onto a small ship prepared for their departure, Jalen turned to her. "Are you sure?" he asked. She smiled softly. "I was born in a cage. I don't care where we go, Jalen, as long as it's not back." He looked ahead, toward the stars, toward freedom. As the ship rose into the sky, leaving behind judgment and war, 2 people who once had no place in the galaxy now had each other. A name, a future. The stars were endless. For days their small ship drifted through the black sea of space. No borders, no patrols, no orders, just silence and possibility. Lara stood at the window, her golden eyes wide, filled with wonder. Not fear. She had never seen so many stars without feeling like they were prison lights. Now they looked like freedom. Behind her, Jalen adjusted the ship's settings. A planet blinked on the screen. Green, untouched, unclaimed. It's called Velis 4, he said. No cities, no governments, just forests, rivers. Quiet. Lara turned. Sounds perfect. He smiled. Then let's start there. They landed, gently between two crystal blue lakes. Birds sang in strange tones. The air smelled like rain and new beginnings. Jalen built a small shelter with tools from the ship. Lara helped. She had never held a hammer before, never used her hands for anything except defense or fear. Now she was creating something. Their first night on the new world was silent. No alarms, no footsteps, no screams. Just wind and peace. Though, next morning Jalen cooked simple food over a fire. Lara sat beside him, hair tied back, her robe now patched with pieces of cloth she chose herself. You ever think we'll stop running? She asked. Jalen stirred the pot slowly. I think we already have. She looked at him, then glanced at the small garden they planted the day before. Little green leaves were already poking out. Something was growing. She liked that thought. Later that day, Jalen pulled out a small wooden box. He opened it and took out a silver pendant. Just a simple circle on a string. It's not much, he said. But I made it for you. Lara touched it gently. What does the circle mean? It's a promise, he said. No start, no end, just us. She smiled. Then I'll wear it. He tied it around her neck. For a moment they just sat there, quiet, together. Days passed, then weeks. They learned to live with the land. Lara started drawing on the walls of their shelter. Stars, birds, a symbol that looked like her pendant. She sang soft songs in a language Jalen didn't know, and one day she asked him a question that made him freeze. Do I still feel like a gift? Jalen looked at her seriously. No, he said. You feel like the person I waited for my whole life. She looked away, but he saw her smile. One evening, they sat by the lake. Lara held a small notebook. Inside it were sketches, notes, pieces of her past and present. She turned to a blank page and wrote something slowly. When she was done, she handed it to Jalen. He read it out loud. I want to take your name. He looked at her, stunned. Are you sure? She nodded. Not because I'm owned. Not because I'm claimed. But because I choose it. Jalen took her hand. And I choose you, he said. Every day. For the rest of my life. The next morning, she wrote her full name on the wall. Lara Pierce. She traced it with her fingers. It felt strange, but right. Not a number, not a mark, a name. Her own. Years later, people spoke of a couple who lived on Velis 4. A man and a glowing-eyed woman who smiled at children and grew fruit trees taller than houses. They were strange, but kind. No one knew where they came from, but some said they had survived something dark and turned it into light. Lara stood by the garden, holding Jalen's hand. The wind played with her hair. I was born in chains, she whispered. But I'll die free. Jalen kissed her fingers. No, he said softly. You'll live free. For a very long time. And she did.